Let's kick things off with a question that I'm pretty sure every single one of us has asked ourselves at some point. It's one of those things that can feel super personal and honestly just so frustrating. If you've ever looked around your space and just felt completely overwhelmed by clutter or like you're in a never-ending battle with mess, you are so not alone. And it turns out there's a really specific and kind of simple reason why this keeps happening. And here it is, the big secret, the simple truth. You can't be good at tidying if you've never actually learned how. We just kind of assume it's something we should all know how to do, but it's a skill, a learned skill, just like cooking or riding a bike.
All right, so first up, let's dig into why this super important life skill is so often just completely ignored, and why just trying to keep your place in order can feel like a totally impossible job.
I mean, think about it, right? We learn how to cook from our family, maybe we take a class in school, but tidying? Nope, it just doesn't get passed down. We're told, hey, go clean your room, but nobody ever actually shows us a real method for doing it. So we end up teaching ourselves, and usually that just means we keep repeating the same bad habits over and over again, getting more and more frustrated. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. We are all self-taught. That's the core of the problem right there. We think of tidying as some kind of natural talent, something you either have or you don't. But it's not. It's a skill. And like any other skill, you have to learn it.
Okay, so because we never got any real training, we've ended up with all these myths about tidying. Those little pieces of common sense that everyone repeats. Well, it turns out a lot of them are actually the very things holding us back. Let's bust a few of them.
Now, this one sounds so logical, doesn't it? Just tidy a little bit every day. It's everywhere. But here's the twist. What if I told you that this nice, gentle advice is precisely why so many of us fail? Yeah, that whole little by little idea, it's a total trap. And here's why. When you only make tiny, tiny changes, you never get that big wow moment. You never get to feel that amazing, powerful impact of a completely tidy space. And without that huge, visible reward, your motivation just fizzles out. You never actually change your habits deep down. You end up tidying forever.
And this little experiment shows you exactly how this falls apart in the real world. You might start off all gung-ho, right? Day one, you toss a t-shirt. But then life happens. And more importantly, let's be real. We bring new stuff into our homes way faster than we get rid of one thing a day. The math it doesn't work.
Okay, here's another piece of so-called wisdom that we need to totally throw out. This one sounds a little extreme, I know, but stick with me, because there's a really important idea behind it.
So here's the deal. Focusing on storage first is like putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg. All those clever bins and boxes, they just create the illusion of a tidy space. They help you hide the problem. But behind those nice-looking doors, the chaos is still there, because you haven't dealt with the actual root cause, which is you just have too much stuff.
And this is how you get stuck in what's basically a negative spiral. The room feels cluttered, so what do? You go buy more storage stuff. You fill it all up, which hides the clutter for a little while, and then soon enough, the room feels cluttered all over again. And you think, oh, I just need a better storage system. But you're not actually solving anything, you're just moving the problem around. Okay, so if all the old advice is wrong, what's the right way? Let's switch gears and talk about the solution. This is a completely new way of thinking about tidying, and it is so much more effective. So, instead of thinking of tidying as this endless, daily chore that you hate, think of it as a special event, a one-time thing. It's like running a marathon for your house, a big, focused effort to get it all done once and for all. And why does this work so well? Because when you do it all in one big shot, the change is so huge, so dramatic, that it actually changes your mindset. You see and feel the results in such a profound way that it just sticks. That massive transformation is what makes it a permanent habit, not just a temporary fix. So, how do you run this marathon? It's actually pretty simple. There are only two main steps: discarding and then, only then, storing. And the order is absolutely critical. You have to finish getting rid of everything you don't need before you even start to think about where the remaining stuff is going to live. Now, this part is a total game changer. Don't tidy room by room. That's a huge mistake. Instead, you tidy by category. That means you gather up every single piece of clothing you own, from every closet, every drawer, the pile on that chair, the stuff in the basement, and you put it all in one giant pile.
Why? Because it's the only way to truly face how much you actually have. It forces you to confront the reality, and that's what breaks the cycle.
And this is where things get really interesting, because you start to realize that this whole process, it's about way more than just having a clean room. It's actually a catalyst for something much, much deeper.
Yep, we've all heard this one, right? A messy room equals a messy mind. And it might sound like a cliche, but there's a real psychological truth to it. What's going on in our physical space is so often a mirror for what's going on inside our heads.
You know, sometimes the clutter itself is actually serving a purpose. It can be like an instinctive reflex, a way to distract ourselves. The visible mess pulls our attention away from the real issues, the harder stuff in our lives that we don't want to face.
But what happens when all that physical clutter is gone? Suddenly, there's nowhere left to hide. When your room is finally clean and uncluttered, you have no choice but to look inward and examine your inner state. You're basically clearing the way so you can finally deal with the things that truly matter.
And this is why this whole thing can feel so transformative. The second you start tidying this way, you're not just organizing your stuff, you're being pushed to reset your entire life. That's why it's so important to do it quickly. It gives you the momentum to confront what's really going on and to move forward with real clarity.
And that really brings us to the most important point of all. Tidying isn't the final goal. A clean house is not the destination, it's just a tool. The real goal is to create the lifestyle that you truly want for yourself once all that clutter, both physical and mental, is out of the way.
So getting your house in order is that first, huge, powerful step. And once it's done, it leaves you with one final, and honestly, much more exciting question to answer. Now that you've cleared the slate, what kind of life do you really want to build?